The Resident Evil franchise is one of the earliest 3D series to regularly feature women protagonists and antagonists because all genders can be infected with a horrible mutating virus. Hey, it's Game Rant, and here are the 10 best female characters in Resident Evil ranked. Number 10. Ingrid Hunningen. We're starting off this list strong with the all-too unsung hero of Resident Evil 4, Ingrid Hunningen. Oh, what's that? You only recall Leon Kennedy doing all the work? Well, that might be true, but he's also the doofus who regularly got himself choked out and knocked unconscious for several hours at a time. And when he awoke, who was there to point him in the right direction? That's right, Ingrid. She continued her role as informant throughout the series. Meanwhile, Leon Kennedy continues to get choked and knocked on the head. You goofball. Well, that's what you get for trying to flirt with a disinterested coworker. Number 9. Ashley Graham. There's this idea that the president's daughter, Ashley Graham, was annoying in the original Resident Evil 4. And while we will concede she is much more capable in the remake, we're wondering why a super elite, rich young girl should be chill about heads imploding around her so that the growing beasts using their husks as a symbiote can swing their sharp hooks to decapitate her only ally, Leon Kennedy, who again, we really do hate to bring this up, but Leon Kennedy sure gets knocked out a lot. And did we mention that she was infected with the same symbiote virus? Yeah, a ticking time bomb. In that context, Ashley seems downright relaxed. Number 8. Shiva Alamar. There's certainly a lot to be said about the production of Resident Evil 5, its choice of African location, and the eventual reveal of Shiva Alamar. There's more than enough bad vibes to go around, but that is not in the spirit of this list. And we say because Shiva Amalur played such a pivotal role in Resident Evil 5 as the sidekick to Chris Redfield, she is clearly underexposed. Shiva more than proved herself capable of taking down the worst Umbrella has to offer, and could easily take a starring role in a game of her own. Many of these characters don't start all that iconic. It took time, and for the Resident Evil franchise to ignore her for this long, it feels like a major missed opportunity, which is why we're putting her on our list. Number 7. Rebecca Chambers. As if we need another reason to prove our previous point, Rebecca Chambers stepped into the background shortly after her first appearance as, you guessed it, Chris Redfield's impromptu partner. But her further appearances fleshed out her character. In fact, that's Dr. Chambers to you, mister, as she's been fighting these goopy biomonsters longer than just about anybody, as revealed in the franchise's earliest chronological prequel, Resident Evil 0. Despite losing her entire team to the horrific monstrosities escaping the Spencer Mansion, she survives the events of the game and immediately wanders into Resident Evil 1. Who else could back-to-back horror adventures like that? We're not saying that Rebecca Chambers is the toughest character in Resident Evil, but kinda. Number 6. Sherry Birkin. Speaking of toughness, it comes in many different types and different points in one's life, and we can certainly not imagine being 12 and witnessing the events of Resident Evil 2. Well, you know, like in real life at least. You know what we mean. Sherry's daddy doctor decided to G-virus up his genes. So what exactly does the G-virus do? Well, you ever see the end of Akira? It's kind of like that, but slower. And even if William's rapid inhuman mutations have destroyed any semblance of rational thought, and eventually the basic physiology of a human body, he still wants to be all nice and close with his daughter. Hashtag girl dad. Yeah, the fact that Sherry appears to be pretty well balanced in future entries is a testament to her character. That and who wants a daddy taking up all that space? Get out of here. Number 5. Bella, Cassandra, and Daniela. Less of standalone characters and more of an entertaining dynamic, Bella, Cassandra, and Daniela have long abandoned any concept of their humanity to enjoy their otherworldly power as undead party goths. And you know what? We love them for that. Of course, this means the player as Ethan Winters will need to take them out one by one in some of the most enjoyable boss encounters of the modern era. So much of the Resident Evil franchise involves things mutating into disfigured creatures and terrified onlookers. Meanwhile, these gal pals are living it up. And sure, they're gonna cut ya, but at least they have a positive attitude about it. Number 4. Lady Dimitrescu. And what would those girls be without the maternal head of the house, a 9-foot-tall diva who challenged the very concept of a Resident Evil villain and became an icon in the process? Again, she's gonna get you. But the reason fans were immediately drawn to her, besides a deep awakening, was her pure enjoyment of terrifying players, barking orders at opposing factions within the village, and generally being a hyper-confident psychopath with posh manners, which, to be clear, will always be used in the service of disemboweling the player. And yet we still love her. The personality and look have been memed several ways from a tyrant and introduced cosplayers to a brand new staple of big goth lady starlet, like Morticia Adams, who can knock your skull clean off. Number 3. Ada Wong. If you're asking for the coolest lady in all of Resident Evil, it's really hard to beat the super spy Ada Wong. Working in corporate espionage with a staggeringly high body count, Miss Wong consistently seems like the only person in all of Resident Evil that has planned ahead. Seriously, how often do you need to face certain death from the same corporation before you make a bug-out bag? The interests of the protagonist and Ada's employers usually don't align, but it's her good spirit and concern for others that sees her multitasking along the way and saving the likes of Leon Kennedy. Dude, why are you always being rescued? Number 2. Claire Redfield. During the troubled development of Resident Evil 2, the game went through several revisions, eventually rebuilding the game from scratch. One major change between versions was the addition of Claire Redfield, a curious, courageous young woman on the search for her brother, Chris. And Claire was far more grounded than the originally planned character, the motorcycle-riding Elza Walker. From Code Veronica to Revelations 2, she has endured throughout the series. But there is one frustrating aspect to her initial story that has rarely been told, and that's because of the mislabeling of the disc for Resident Evil 2, which should have had players starting with Disc 1, Claire, before moving on to Disc 2, Leon. Instead, most players enjoyed Scenario A with Leon and Scenario B with Claire. But being the international investigator she is, Claire just rolls with the punches. Number 1. Jill Valentine. Being the first playable woman in the first Resident Evil, Jill Valentine established the tone of how female characters would be portrayed in this series. She's a world-class combatant, throwing down tons of bullet shells, acid rounds, and rockets, able to survive nearly any scenario with little to no advanced knowledge, and was even able to take out the super weapon Nemesis. That just puts her over the top for us. Nemesis was sent down to Raccoon City to take down a bunch of regular cops, but little did they realize Jill Valentine would be the real super weapon, earning W after W of multiple encounters with the Nemesis creature, before finally taking it down once and for all. And when the franchise spiraled into action nonsense, it was the Jill Valentine starring Resident Evil Revelations which returned the series to its survival roots. Frankly, it wasn't even close. Jill Valentine is a video game icon. And yes, she is the master of unlocking. And there you have it, Resident Evil, the 10 best female characters ranked. Still itching to relive the Umbrella Chronicles? Well, keep clicking around here in Game Rant, and we'll see you next time.